rise to support the amendment that is before the chamber, which would increase the amount of special ed funding from $40 million to $92.2 million. And I'll respond to some of the previous comments just to say I couldn't agree more that there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I'm kind of baffled by the set of circumstances that is before the chamber today, because we were here a week ago and unanimously passed the similar amount of $40 million for special education funding. Republicans and Democrats got together. Some of us objected to the way it was happening, that it was emergency certified, whether or not it was the right amount. But at the end of the day, we agreed that was a good thing, that it fell within the budget parameters and that it was a step in the right direction, and we supported it unanimously, I believe, in both chambers. The craziest thing then happened, though, which is the governor of this state said, no, I don't believe this actually fits into the budget parameters. Today, I believe the press has kind of indicated in their conversations with the governor that maybe he got it wrong. Maybe he changed his mind. I fully expected us to come back in here today and to override the governor's veto and set it right. But instead, we've got something different on the table. It's no longer the same bill. It is no longer $40 million going through the proper budget process within the notorious guardrails, which I'll get to in a moment. Instead, it's being created through the use of a budget gimmick. And I can tell you, I've been here in the legislature since 2011, and I've seen many budgets, and therefore I've seen many gimmicks along the way. I've seen every type of gimmick possible. I remember one time one of the majority party governors put forth a budget based on the notion that there was going to be a suggestion box that was going to get us some untold stack of millions of dollars. I remember budgets where we were going to borrow millions and millions of dollars against the future, basically reducing our debt service temporarily, only to make it explode later on. I've watched gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. And frankly, my issue today is that this underlying bill is a gimmick. No one in this chamber wants to see special education funding not properly attributed to the towns. Everyone wants to see that. But yet you have a debate. The debate has to be about something. We were here a week ago unanimously supporting the same amount. So what is the debate about? The debate is about whether or not we're going to fund it the proper way, respecting what this chamber and the House has agreed with over the last several years, which is that we need to have a framework that we can all live with to determine what the expenditures of the state of Connecticut are going to be going forward. This particular bill that is before us explodes that framework, in my view. It basically says we are not going to abide by any of those parameters. And this is, look where we are. We're in the very start of the legislative session. We don't even have a budget document that we're negotiating at this point. We're going to just come out of the gate with a proposal that ignores that framework, all of the commitments to working together to make sure that we abide by a set of rules that are going to help us maintain security in our budgeting for years to come. So that's why this amendment is before the chamber, because we Senate Republicans got together today and said, we can't allow this to happen. We have to take a stand. We have to say there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And yes, we want to see this money make it back to the towns, but we also want to see it get there through a proper budget process and not through some gimmick that is going to risk the same kind of crazy things that have happened in the past. I remember when I was first elected, we were facing the largest tax increase in the history of Connecticut. And what was that from? That was from poor budgeting processes and gimmicks and people going outside the lines. Shortly thereafter, we passed the second largest tax increase in the state of Connecticut. I voted no on both of those, I'll point out, just for the record's sake. But the fact of the matter is, that's what happens. When you make bad choices, you ignore the framework by which we're supposed to be operating in, and you start to do little things, oh, we're just going to do this off budget. For the people listening at home, think about this. This is the idea where we're saying, okay, we have a certain amount of money and it fits in this box, and we're going to start to spend money out of the box. Okay? Well, at some point, you're going to run out of money. Well, this particular item that we're voting on today, not the amendment, but the underlying bill that we are trying to come up with an alternative to via this amendment, would say that we don't care about the box. We're just going to make another little box right next to it, and we're going to decide what's in there and what's not in there any given day. Completely ignoring our responsibility to what the actual framework is, how much money we actually have to operate. It's incredibly frustrating to witness. And even though every one of us recognizes that it's a very hard vote, at the end of the day, if our amendment fails to go back and say we're going to vote against the majority's proposal to use this gimmick to fund special ed, we're going to do it anyway, because we're going to put our foot down and say we are not going to be part of the guilty few that are going to push this forward. We are not going to be part of the people that have decided that our rules and our framework doesn't matter. We want to do things the right way. I'll just say a couple of other things. My good colleague, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, made a very valuable point, which is we shouldn't necessarily be pushing things to the edge. And I completely agree with that. If it was up to me, I would suggest that we don't spend any money as a legislature until we have an idea what our entire budget looks like. You can't make priorities out of thin air. You need to know what you're comparing things to. And your priorities can change over time when you become aware of different things and as different things happen in our society. But the fact of the matter is that today, right now, we do know that this is a problem. And I sympathize with the majority trying to make it an emergency issue. Is it truly an emergency? I don't think so. But it is something that absolutely affects each and every one of our towns. The reason why our property taxes are so high in each and every one of our towns is because a lot of our town government decisions have to be made based on the resources that they receive from the state. And the fact of the matter is, because the state has failed in its obligation to fund those towns properly, they are forced to make it up by raising local property taxes. So in some ways, I will say that I support this amendment wholeheartedly, even though I think it ought to be done in a larger framework. I do it because I know that this money is actually money that is going to end up back offsetting the costs to the people I represent. And for me, that's the most important thing right now. Because I want to just suggest that a lot of our conversation in here is all about how the state is going to manage, how the state is going to have money for this and that. I'm concerned about how much money the state has, but I'm a lot less concerned about that than how much money my constituents have. After all, it's their money. And I will work every day to find a way to put as much of that money back in their pockets as I can. So earlier today, when we were talking about how much we could make this amount, I'm willing to go as far as anyone, because I want to put this money back into my town where it's going to offset the property taxes my constituents pay. It's a good amendment. It does things the right way. It doesn't go around the budget framework. It doesn't bust the budget guardrails. I don't know, again, I'll go back to the governor. I hope he's listening. I don't understand why you vetoed a bill that actually would have been perfectly fine, that everybody agreed with was fitting within our guardrails. And now the majority is going to send you a bill that probably passes largely on party lines that doesn't do that. If you're true to your word and that you believe the guardrails are a legitimate way for us to go, then you need to veto this bill also. Or the majority should jump on board with us right now and support this amendment and do the right thing. Give the max amount of money for special ed that we can and within the guardrails. Thank you very much, Madam President.
The machine is locked. Mr. Lee, please.